My father once told me, every builder dreams of laying the first stone. I believed him. I was wrong. Sometimes, the greatest thing you will ever build begins with a single line drawn in the sand. My name is Hori. I was an apprentice surveyor. Not an architect, not a master builder. An apprentice. The boy carrying the measuring rope. The boy holding the markers. The boy told to stand there, move there, wait there, and try not to ask foolish questions. My father repaired temples. Beautiful work, important work, invisible work. When a stone cracked, he replaced it. When a wall leaned, he steadied it. When old paint faded, he helped bring color back to gods whose names were older than most kingdoms. He loved the work. That is important. He never spoke of it with bitterness. But even as a child, I noticed something. When people walked through a temple, they praised the pharaoh who built it. They praised the gods who lived there. They praised the stone. They never asked who kept it standing. My father used to say, every honest builder in Egypt walked in the shadow of Imhotep. Imhotep, the great builder of Saqqara, the man who looked at empty desert and imagined a staircase to eternity. Once, I asked my father whether we were descended from him. He laughed.
Probably not.
Then he placed his old measuring rope into my hands and smiled.
But we are something better. Every honest builder is one of his sons.
I looked down at the rope, frayed, dusty, older than me. Even me?
Especially you.
Then he tightened my fingers around it and said,
The priests serve Ptah with prayers. We serve Ptah with stone. Imhotep taught us that.
One afternoon, my father took me through Memphis. He stopped before a temple wall, so bright in the sunlight it seemed impossible that human hands had touched it.
Who built this?
I answered quickly, the pharaoh.
Great. And who repaired it last year?
I opened my mouth, then closed it. I did not know. My father smiled.
Exactly.
Then he pointed towards Saqqara, where the oldest stones rose from the desert.
And who built that?
Imhotep.
There. Now you understand.
Thousands of men had measured Egypt. Thousands had cut stone. Thousands had repaired walls, lifted columns, carved names, painted stars on ceilings, and died unknown. History remembered pharaohs. It remembered conquerors. It remembered gods. Among builders, it remembered Imhotep. One man. That should tell you how difficult greatness truly is. That evening, I found my father alone, cleaning dust from his tools. I asked him, "Did you ever want to build something new?" His hands stopped, only for a moment. Then he continued cleaning.
My work begins when someone else's work begins to fall apart.
He said it gently, not sadly, but I heard what he did not say. He had spent his life preserving the dreams of dead kings. Then he looked at me.
I only hope you get the chance to lay the first stone.
I carried those words for years, and for years I feared I had been born too late. Egypt had already built her wonders. The pyramids were ancient. The temples were ancient. The names worth remembering already belonged to the dead. What was left for us? Repairs, records, dust. Then Alexander came to Egypt and asked where a city should stand. Before we reached the empty coast, we passed through Narrator, Egypt's old door to the Greek world. Not a door on the sea, a door on the river. Greek ships came from the Mediterranean, searched for the canopic mouth of the Nile, then entered Egypt slowly, carefully. Past reeds, past mud banks, past villages where children ran beside the water, shouting at sailors in languages they did not understand. Then, after the sea was already behind them, they reached Narrator. There, cargo changed hands. Greek wine, Egyptian grain, oil, papyrus, silver, stories. It had served Egypt well for generations. But Alexander watched the river, then looked back toward the sea. He said very little. That was how I first noticed him. Not as a warrior, not as pharaoh, as a man who became quiet when he was thinking. That night, after a day of measuring banks, channels, and distances that made my legs ache, I sat beside the river. My hands were raw from rope. My shoulders hurt. An old harbor pilot sat beside me, one of the men whose job was to climb aboard foreign ships and guide them safely from the open sea through the mouths of the Nile. I had seen him earlier, guiding a foreign ship through the channel. He smelled of river water, fish, and old rope. He looked at my hands.
Long day?
Alexander spent the whole day looking for a harbor.
Good. It's about time someone did.
But we have Narrator.
No, boy. You have a river.
Then he took a stick and drew in the mud. The sea, the Nile, the canopic mouth, Narrator.
Every captain crossing the Mediterranean believes his voyage ends when he reaches Egypt. Poor fools. It has only begun. First, find the river mouth. Miss it, and the sea laughs at you. Find it, and the river begins testing you. The current, the shoals, the mud, the season, the wind. Then sail inland. Then unload. Then load again. Only then does Egypt truly begin.
I watched the little map in the mud. It looked so simple. It was not. Then why did they keep coming? The pilot looked at me as if I had asked why men breathe.
Because Egypt feeds the world.
Then he looked north, toward the darkness beyond the river.
But she has never greeted the sea properly. Perhaps your king wants Egypt to greet the sea before the river does.
I did not understand him then, not fully, but Alexander did. The next morning, we rowed west, away from the old river door, toward open coast. At first, I saw nothing. Sand, wind, a long pale ridge between water and sky. To the north, the Mediterranean, restless, blue, endless. To the south, Lake Mareotis, wide and quiet, like a second sea, hidden behind the land. And offshore, a small island, Pharos. The fishermen knew it, sailors knew it. To me, it was only rock and gulls. Alexander stared at it for a long time. Then he smiled. I remember that smile. It was the smile of a man looking at something no one else could see. Alexander began asking questions. Not, how many men can it hold? How much tribute can it pay? Who owns the land? His questions were stranger. How deep is the water? Where do ships wait during storms? Which way does the wind blow in summer? How far to the Nile? Where does the lake rise? Can fresh water reach here? Where would merchants unload? Where would soldiers defend? Where would people breathe? That last question stayed with me. Where would people breathe? I had never heard someone ask that. The sailors answered some questions. The engineers answered others. Surveyors measured. Officers watched. Soldiers grew impatient. Most of them saw empty coast. Alexander saw a city. I thought kings measured cities by walls. Alexander measured them by the wind. Later that day, he stood on the ridge between the sea and the lake. The wind pulled at his cloak. Pharos lay ahead, Mareotis behind, Egypt to one side, the Mediterranean to the other. We began the next morning. At first, it was ordinary work. Measure, pull the rope tight, mark the line, check the angle, move again, measure again. My father's rope stretched across the sand, the same rope that had measured cracked temple walls, uneven floors, fallen blocks, now measured empty air. Alexander moved quickly, too quickly for the older engineers. He marked where walls should rise, where streets should cross, where markets should open, where temples should stand. He wanted shrines for Greek gods and Egyptian gods, especially Isis. He wanted harbors facing Pharos, quays, warehouses, a city between sea and lake, between Greece and Egypt, between what already existed and what had not yet been imagined. Days passed, then more days. I began arriving before sunrise, not because anyone ordered me, because I wanted to see it before the others came. The coast was different at dawn. The sea turned gold, Lake Mareotis turned silver. Birds rose from the marshes in dark clouds. Fishermen pushed their boats into the water before the sun had fully lifted. Pharos stood offshore, quiet, patient, waiting to become important. At first, I had seen only sand. Now, I began hearing things. Not real things, not yet. Ropes creaking against ships. Merchants shouting in Greek. Egyptian fishermen laughing at foreign sailors. Children running through streets that did not yet exist. Hammers striking stone. Water sellers calling at dawn. Prayers rising from temples that were still only marks in the sand. I was falling in love with a city that had not been born. Then came the problem, a small problem, the kind that stops great men because ordinary men forgot ordinary things. We ran out of marking chalk. No chalk, no clear lines, no city. The older engineers argued, the officers complained, the workers waited. Alexander looked annoyed. Then someone suggested barley meal, the grain carried to feed the workers. Food, to mark a city. Ridiculous, completely ridiculous. Alexander loved it. Soon baskets were opened. Barley meal poured white against the sand. Line after line. Wall, street, market, temple, harbor. For the first time, the city became visible. Fragile, pale, almost foolish, but visible. I stood back and stopped breathing. There it was, Alexandria. Not in stone, not yet, but there. Then one bird landed, a gull, small, almost harmless. It pecked at the barley meal. Someone shouted. The bird ignored him. Then another landed, then 5, then 20. Then the sky above Lake Mareotis seemed to loosen. Birds came from everywhere. Gulls, water birds, dark wings, white wings, crying, falling, feeding. The city disappeared beneath them. Workers shouted. Surveyors cursed. Men waved their arms. The birds cared nothing for kings, surveyors, or the future of cities. They ate. Within moments, whole streets vanished. Walls vanished. Markets vanished. Alexandria was being devoured before it had been built. No one laughed then, not even Alexander. He watched the birds until the last grains were gone. His face changed, just slightly, but I saw it. For the first time since we had reached the coast, he looked uncertain, as though the gods had spoken in a language he did not want to hear. Then he turned. Aristander. The name passed through the men near me. Aristander, the seer, the old man Alexander sought whenever certainty disappeared. I had heard stories of him. Some said he could read smoke. Some said dreams. Some said birds. I only knew this. When men looked at signs and saw fear, Aristander often found hope. He stepped forward slowly. A young apprentice walked a few steps behind him, carrying knives, bowls, incense, and watching his master more carefully than he watched the birds. Aristander looked at the empty sand, the scattered birds, the last white traces of barley meal. Then he smiled.
My king, the birds have not stolen your city. They have revealed it.
Alexander watched him. Aristander raised his hand toward the sea, then the lake, then the sky.
This city will feed many nations. It will draw men from everywhere, like birds to grain. It will nourish the world.
For a moment, no one moved. Then Alexander smiled, and the whole coast breathed again. I looked at the sand, at the birds, at Alexander, at Aristander, and understood something I had not understood that morning. The same thing can be seen 4 ways. I had seen lines. The birds had seen food. Alexander had seen a city. Aristander had seen its destiny. Perhaps greatness was not only what men built. Perhaps greatness began with what they were able to see. A sailor appeared beside me. I had not heard him approach. He looked at the ruined lines, then at Alexander, then at me.
I have watched the river erase men's work for 40 years. If the king truly sees what I think he sees, he'll draw it again.
He was right. We drew it again, and again, and again, until the lines existed, not only in barley meal, not only in sand, but inside every man who had helped place them there. I sat alone with my father's measuring rope, coiled beside me. Sand clung to its fibers, barley dust too. For years, that rope had measured repairs, old walls, old floors, old stones. It had helped preserve what other men had begun. Now, it had measured something new. I thought of my father, his hands, his tools, his patience, his quiet pride. I thought of Imhotep, standing before empty desert, imagining stone rising toward the sky. And for the first time, I wondered whether Egypt's greatest days were not only behind us. Perhaps every generation is given one empty place, one silence, one impossible line waiting to be drawn. The wind erased our work before the first stone was ever laid. Some said there was nothing left. They were wrong, because cities are not born when walls rise. They are born the moment someone imagines them. I stood there, holding my father's measuring rope, and I thought about Imhotep. I wondered whether one day a father would point toward Alexandria and tell his son, "A great builder once stood here." For one selfish moment, I hoped he might be speaking about me.